With fantasy football drafts approaching in the next couple weeks and the season starting in under a month, here's a few wide receivers I would look to avoid going into draft day. The first receiver, Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. Chris Olave, he's been a top-tier receiver for a couple years until last season. Concussions and other injuries did him in, where Olave, he didn't do much last year in a small sample size. 32 catches, 400 yards, a receiving touchdown, a fumble loss, and 44 targets. So the same team last year got off to a roaring start. One of the best offenses in the league, and then with injuries and just coming back down to earth offensively, they didn't do much the remainder of the season, and Olave's season cut short with concussion issues. Now in training camp already, Olave, he's got ankle issues as well to begin his Chris Olave. So right now, Olave, we'll see if he's going to be healthy or not, but I think he'll be fine entering the season. But if he has another 1 or 2 more concussions, he might hang it up. Olave's had concussion issues as well throughout his NFL career. And another thing, this offense doesn't have much going. They got an aging Alvin Kamara, even though last season he still had an okay season, was Alvin Kamara. Rashid Shaheed, he's coming off a season-ending injury from last year as well, where he was out week 5, week 6, he was on the shelf. And now Derek Carr retiring. They got Spencer Rattler, quarterback, with a rookie. Tyler Show, whoever's going to win the training camp battle and start for this New Orleans Saints team. So like I said, not much going on entering the season. Maybe Olave could surprise, but I just don't like his ADP, where on most platforms he's going 5th, 6th round as Chris Olave. I know he was a 2nd, 3rd rounder at times over the last couple seasons, but like I said, in an offense that you don't know what's going to happen, and with his injury concerns, especially the concussion concerns as well, on and off over the last few seasons, Chris Olave, he's definitely someone that's not worth a 5th or 6th round pick, in my opinion, with all those factors, and especially the quarterback position. Derek Carr, we knew was a gunslinger, could get that football down the field and make plays, but now with the rookie Tyler Show, there's obviously going to be growing pains, or Spencer Rattler, who's more of a running quarterback, it seems like at times, more than one to stay in the pocket and make plays. So with all those factors, he's a receiver with this year. Next receiver, Rome Odunze of the Chicago Bears. Rome Odunze last year, they used the top 10 pick on him, was the Chicago Bear team. And in his rookie year, he had a couple pop games here and there. 54 catches, 734 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. And I know, obviously, Ben Johnson is now the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator with the Lions, and we've seen the numbers that offense has put up over the last few seasons. And now being the head coach here for this Bear team, we'll see if this offense improves. But Caleb Williams, to me, he's not as accurate as a Jared Goff, and he runs the football more than Jared Goff as well, where some opportunities from Odunze will go down. And also DJ Moore's still the number 1 wide receiver over there. He didn't have a monster year last year, but believe it or not, DJ Moore still had 98 catches, even though he failed to get 1,000 yards. And they might even use him in the backfield a little bit more as well. So I know Keenan Allen left in free agency, went back to the Chargers, where he had 70 catches. But also Luther Burden is there, and Colston Loveland, they used the top 10 pick to draft him at the tight end position. So Odunze, no doubt about it, coming out of college last season, was a nice prospect. But I just don't think Odunze has a lot of upside this season as a total breakout year 2 wide receiver in this offense. Like I said, I know they got Ben Johnson, but a lot of mouths to feed in this offense over there for the Chicago Bear team. And Rome Odunze could have a decent year, but where he's going back into the 5th, 6th round range, I don't think he's worth the take for fantasy owners. Next receiver, Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Waddle got a contract extension last season, and he had a down year just like everyone else on Miami. We know Tua is the engine to that offense, because when he's been out over the last couple of years, everyone's numbers have gone down. Last season, 58 catches, 744 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns on 83 targets. And the other thing with Waddle, he's had his injury problems over the last 2 seasons, where it seems like every other game he was leaving the game with a groin injury, a hamstring, or something, where he had to come off the field and couldn't complete a game, even though in the thick of things he didn't miss many games over the last couple seasons. But like I said, Jalen Waddle, he just hasn't been the same over the last few years. Also, video has surfaced early in training camp. He came in out of shape as well as Jalen Waddle. And like I said, Tyreek Hill is still the number 1 option in this offense. Devon Achane took a monster step catching passes out of the backfield last year, where he arguably was their more consistent receiver game in and game out catching passes, was Devon Achane as a running back. And also they added Darren Waller in a trade after he came out of retirement, even though who knows what he's got left in the tank is Darren Waller. But like I said, with injuries on and off and leaving games early last year and the numbers dropping drastically the last 2 seasons for Waddle, and he's more the third option in this offense. He's just a wide receiver that's going in that 4th, 5th round range. I'm not going to count on Waddle. Off track record over the last couple seasons. And like I said, it's tough to count on, especially with still decent draft capital. After the last few years, he hasn't done much. Next receiver, Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings. Addison, he's suspended 3 games now to begin the season. The last year injuries did him in the beginning of the season. Is Addison now going from Sam Darnold to J.J. McCarthy? We'll see how this goes. Even though going into last year, many people thought Sam Darnold couldn't handle the job. He went out there and everyone got their fantasy numbers. Jefferson still had a monster year. Addison had a great year, especially when he came off injury last year for the Vikings. But now suspended 3 games. J.J. McCarthy coming in as a starting quarterback. They got to get rapport down. And like I said, Addison, with missing games, still had 63 catches, 875 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns on 99 targets. But it's a whole new quarterback now in there for this Minnesota Viking team. And like I said, off the bat, missing 3 games, and he's still going ADP-wise, 8th, 9th round range. And Addison, I would pass on him. I know he's a good receiver, but he's not, coming into the year top 15, top 20 wide receiver before suspension. So I'll let someone else have him sit on their bench, wait 3 games for him to come back. And like I said, at best, he's a back end 2, definitely flex 3rd receiver option. So let someone else deal with Jordan Addison this season. And the final wide receiver I look to avoid entering the fantasy season is Stephon Diggs of the New England Patriots. He's a couple factors with Diggs as well. He's coming off an ACL injury last year with the Houston Texans, where he got off to a decent start. 47 catches, 496 receiving yards, and 3 TDs on 64 targets. Then another factor as well, new team with this Patriot team. We'll see how Drake May does in his 2nd season in the NFL, even though there's a lot of high hopes for him over there in New England. And pretty much Stephon Diggs, the only real threat at the receiving position, with Hunter Henry, a solid tight end, work in the middle of the field. And the other thing as well, he had some off-the-field stuff, a video early in the summer coming out of Stephon Diggs. We don't know if there's going to be a suspension or not, but as of now, there's nothing. But like I said, with the ACL, new team, young quarterback, and we know how Diggs, he demands the football, and if he don't get his way as well throughout his NFL career, he's had problems. And when you have problems with Josh Allen like he did a few years ago in Buffalo, one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the league, it's just maybe a Stephon Diggs problem, even though last season he was fitting in well with Houston before he went down with injury. But with all those factors, and he's going about 7th, 8th round, which isn't crazy, which is decent value for Diggs, I still don't want to deal with him with all those factors. And like I said, who knows, a suspension could drop anytime, or that ACL just could not be 100% as well. So I would just stay away from Diggs this season unless you get him at a great value in that 10th, 11th round range. That's a few wide receivers I look to avoid entering draft day in the next few weeks for the upcoming 2025 fantasy football season.